he could have picked the champion, but in a good matchup and didn't take it earlier in the day. Went for the blind pick Xerath. Maybe that betrays the fact that he's not confident about his Ahri play. You mentioned 0-2.
Yeah.
Not a bad Ahri player, but definitely doesn't fit him as well as some other champions. Looking at you, Swain. Definitely the master of the Swain. Swain's fallen away after a 2-0 start, which has been very disappointing.
Yeah.
Maybe if we see a Sivir lock-in, which of course one of Uberbro's favorite champions, we might even see the return of that Swain.
Well, that's the thing. It's often with that Sivir banned away from Uberbro that they decide not to pick up this Swain. Has been banned himself a couple of times, but of course they do like to pair those champions together. Morgana, I like this ban away from T-Gun. He doesn't have a winning record on the champion, but the MVP performance from his previous game, definitely worthy of a ban.
I mean, there could be no other champion than Morgana to how well he did in that first game. The roam coming through, hitting Dark Binding after Dark Binding. No other champion could have had an impact on a game like he was able to have in that first game. So ban it out.
He was roaming when he didn't even have it.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
Ban it out. He's got his IN for all those Dark Bindings. His CC was on point. Smart respect ban.
Yeah, get rid of it. Rek'Sai being taken off the board from Carbon here as well. That Trinity Force Rek'Sai farming jungler. Not going to be seen this game, and Minkuel now with the option of that first pick, and we'll see what he takes away. Of course, his Hecarim's available, his Aurelia's available, but Vi also is being looked at here for Carbon. Carbon has played a heck of a lot of different champions there in the jungle, but this would be a double up after his previous loss on the champion.
I mean, you can understand why they're considering Vi. Morgana's banned. It's the Assault and Battery is suddenly a very reliable initiation tool, but in terms of patch 5.5, there are definitely higher pressure junglers, more powerful picks, more popular picks, but they still lock it in.
Yeah, and Zac was available as well. We saw Naiad play that champion to fantastic form, but not going to be happening this time, and now Immunity are going to be following that one up, and we'll see what they decide to go with. And at the moment, Legacy looking like they really want to go for some engage in this one.
It'll just be very interesting to see how this particular Vi builds. When we saw Chelby bring out the Vi last week, it was going very offensive with the Warriors into Blade of the Ruined King, I believe, as a complete DPS build coming through back on Thursday. Cinderhulk fits Vi just fine. A lot of players like to build that damage just so that you can get in there with the Assault and Battery, hit the E and get a lot of extra damage, but full tank Vi still does her job, still gap closes and gets that all-important lockdown on a priority target.
Yeah, the Assault and Battery definitely is going to get you in there, sometimes a little bit too far, but Immunity have waited a long time to really put their picks through here, and Ryu, he does have the option of going back to the Maokai if he wants to. Of course, he banned away his own Scion, which is interesting, but looks like Immunity, they have the Sivir, and Zahi's locked away a Nautilus, and we don't know where that's going. That could be a T-Gun champion because it has an anchor. It has a hook.
It has a hook, I was going to say. That's I mean, a literal hook. And, of course, a hook-like ability, which that sounds like T-Gun, if you ask me. Not so much this season. Actually been more noted on the likes of Morgana and Janna rather than the hook initiation champions, but still in his repertoire. Of course, it is a flex pick of sort. We haven't seen a lot of Jungle Nautilus, but definitely more viable on patch 5.5. Build Cinderhulk. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, and the fact that your E is now scales that cooldown as well, you can spam that a little bit more often.
It's more CC for Nautilus. It's what he needed. More CC.
Of course, one of the only champions with CC on every single part of his kit, including his passive. Completely ridiculous, but have been seeing a fair bit of it in the top lane in solo queue, in my ELO, so maybe that's not going to be an option here, but we'll see whether Ryu wants to bring that down there. Ooh, Legacy looking to go for a bit of a protect the Tallywhacker comp here with the Lulu available, but the Graves locked in here.
And the big thing about the Graves, actually, Tallywhacker's Graves, 2 games, 7.26 KDA, over double his KDA on any other AD carry champion. Makes sense. Tallywhacker, an aggressive top laner. Love that Riven even in competitive play. Why not go for the most aggressive AD carry about burst and melee range damage? Go for that Graves.
Yep. Quick draw into your face and buckshot. That's exactly what he's going to be doing, but we'll see whether it's going to work out. Of course, he is 2-0 on it right now, and Uberbro has been hovering that Bard for quite some time.
It's not going to be a Bard.
Look,
it's not going to be a Bard.
Why would you say that? He's got a great win rate in solo queue at the moment. I don't know what... I want magical journeys. I want Minkuel to pick Shyvana.
Atlas.
And then go on a dragon magical journey.
I'd love to go on a magical journey with you, but it won't be today.
Oh, come on. We're going on a magical journey right now.
I'll let you know how that goes.
Okay. But Minkuel is going to have his Aurelia. Has picked that one up in their first victory, I believe. I think it was. If we just double check. Yes, in fact, first victory with Legacy was on that Aurelia, so he's going to lock that one away. T-Gun is going to be on the Janna, and there's a combination of 3 champions that I just want to allude everyone to.
Oh, the fact that Janna and Nautilus are locked in, though, looks like it's going to be the jungle Nautilus this time. We've seen Supportless, I believe, a couple of times in the OPL already. Banned away in the first series of the night. And here it comes through.
Yeah, it does come through, but what I was going to talk about was the fact that Swain fits quite nicely into this comp.
And they do have the last pick. Red side last pick Swain. If you're going to do it, if you're going to go off meta, this is the time to do it. Of course, in the previous game, it was Urgot as the last pick. A repeat performance here wouldn't be too surprising, but we'll have to wait and see what Legacy pick up. Because, I mean, Swain, against a champion like Vi, you don't... A lot of mages, if it's a Xerath, of course, you want to use that Assault and Barrier on the Xerath. But you go into Swain, he goes into Stasis, he's healing up. It's not an ideal target.
No, and Egypt, he's going to go back to the Annie here, and Choo Choo's yet again on this Zed. Was played in the last match that Legacy did play out, but it didn't work too well. And that is going to be a top lane Lulu.
Top lane Lulu. Not too surprising, of course. Very quick power spike with Merlonomicon and CDR boots, picking up the 40% CDR. No hyper carry to kind of defend. It might actually be Choo Choo's when he dives in on Zed, receiving all the attention and the shields coming through from the Lulu. They need the magic damage from somewhere. That's why they're going for Annie and Lulu. Not going to be big magic dealers, but at least have to think about magic resist as a stat.
Oh, most definitely. And I was talking about Aurelia and talking about Minky Well. That's going to be Ryu taking that to the top lane for immunity. So I'm just obviously losing my mind, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. I just needed that. I didn't have a pat, but it is going to be the Swain. At least hovered for a moment. They knew that I was going to lose my mind. But is it going to be locked in? Because this is the kind of comp that Immunity do like to run Swain in. They're moving back to the Karthus. And I'm very disappointed. I
mean, this is a great spot for either Karthus or Swain, because think about Legacy's comp.
Yeah.
A melee-ranged mid laner, a dive jungler, and a short-ranged AD carry. They're going to be diving, and who better than Karthus to deal with that? Even if he dies, that Death-Defied passive still going to be putting out massive damage. Swain also does a lot of damage in melee range, so that would have been a decent pick, but Karthus, it deals with everything Vi is looking to do. So that's why I worry about first pick Vi, is you're only going to have at maximum one person to dive, because you just opt into champions like Sivir and Karthus and negate what the Assault and Battery is all about.
Yeah, of course, that spell shield being fantastic. Ryu's not going to care about it. He's an Aurelia. It's not going to mind. Zahi's just a Nautilus, which is super exciting. The Cinderhulk really bringing out all of these massively tanky junglers again, and we'll see how the Nautilus goes. But ladies and gentlemen, we alluded previously to a competition that you guys can be entering via Twitter. You got to tweet us a photo of the first dragon in game 3 and 4. The first 5 legit entries will win 600 RP, of course. Legit standing for legitimate, ladies and gentlemen. And the requirements are to use the hashtags IamOPL and tweet it at LOL_Oceania.
So just to repeat and to clarify for the viewers, this is game 3. Game 3 and 4 are last 2 games of the night. Atlas is on the table, so you know it's game 3 and 4 because we had pastry time for the first 2 games.
Not
Get
this time.
both those pictures into a single tweet and the hashtag IamOPL to be considered as a legitimate entry.
Oh, okay. So both of the first dragons from both of these games after the games tweeted through.
Nailed it.
Beautiful. Perfect. I'm learning as well, ladies and gentlemen, because I just wanted to tweet pictures of dragons. So it's not just going to be pictures of Minky Well, ladies and gentlemen. The first dragon from both of those games in one tweet, both pictures. So we've got it. Beautiful. Beautiful stuff. But let's go back to the draft.
And the draft's really interesting just because to me, they kind of pigeonholed themselves into a dive comp legacy here with the Vi. Vi first pick. Vi has a first pick on patch 5.45 with the likes of Zach falling through the draft. Tank junglers like even Nautilus coming through as an option just because, again, has health scaling on the shield and then is going to get so much extra health with the Cinderhulk. Vi being selected has opened up this last pick Karthus that deals with all their engage. They went for Vi and Zed, the ultimate dive combination against Sivir, a champion with a spell shield, and Karthus, a champion who's happy to die and just put out damage after that death. I feel like Immunity have all the answers, and Legacy, they've really not necessarily pushed themselves into a corner, but they picked themselves into a corner. There's only so many ways they can pick this game unless they really look for aggressive rotations and split push from Zed.
Yeah, and what are we looking at on the other side of things here as well with Immunity wanting to pick up the Nautilus? What is that going to do to this comp? Because, of course, on the hunt, going to give him a whole lot of movement speed. He'll be landing dredge lines left, right, and center. I
mean, Nautilus, we know what he does as a champion. He's got 4 CCs, as you mentioned. Only his W ability not giving a CC.
It's slow, isn't it, if you auto-attack?
Nope.
Oh, dang.
Just does a lot of damage.
Yeah, true.
The whole thing about his W is if you see the shield, he does a lot of damage, and you have to damage him enough to get the shield off so he does reduce damage. So it's just a damage ability, but he has 4 CCs, which is the most of any champion in the game. If he walks into your lane post-level 6, you know that he's going to lock you up for a long time. They've got damage in lanes to capitalize on what he's doing. Legacy, they're looking for the split push, but Aurelia can get to that point, Trinity forced into tanking when she can deal with a Zed split push. And Legacy, I'm not really sure how they win with a melee-focused comp against a Karthus.
Yeah, and this is something that sort of Legacy fell into the trap of doing in the last matchup as well. They picked the Zed and then just didn't really have that option to split push effectively. And what do they have to do now? Do they need to make sure that they sort of babysit Choo-Choo's, make him that mega mid-game Zed that can just kill everyone?
I think on the other side of the coin, keep down the Aurelia so she's not an option to be split pushing against the Zed. If that Trinity Force timing's 22, 23, 25 minutes into the game, if the armor and the health is only coming in 30, 35 minutes into the game, that's a lot of window for Zed to be doing a lot of action and getting a lot of split pushing done. But if the Aurelia gets strong, if she can get that snowball Trinity Force into tanky, I just don't know how they actually execute on a split push with a Zed with Ignite against what could be a high armor Aurelia.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult, but we'll see whether Legacy can manage to do it. Of course, they have Minkiewell on the Lulu. Minkiewell has historically been a Lulu player in that top lane, has been quite decent at the champion as well, but sort of not the huge dragons, it's not the Aurelias, it's not the Hecarims that we're sort of used to seeing him on. Of course, haven't yet seen his Hecarim, but I hear tell that it is quite devastating. So we'll see why they chose this Lulu over that one, because of course it does provide you with a fair bit of wombo in sort of the follow-up team fight that's going to happen here. What with the wild growth, with the Tibbers there as well.
I mean, this is the second time Legacy have gone for these aggressive comps. You mentioned that Choo-Choo's played the Zed. Remember, it was actually Direwolves that played the Karthus against a very similar comp and negated a lot of the damage. So Karthus is really coming up strong as a red side 5th pick champion against what Choo-Choo's and Legacy have been putting out. So it's just surprising to see them pick themselves into a corner. Maybe they don't want to show strategies coming into playoffs because, of course, already 100% confirmed with a playoff spot, can still secure 3rd spot if they beat 4-0 in the next game. Not to say they're not looking to win this one, but guarding strategies at this point is probably more important than necessarily focusing on winning this game.
Yeah, that might be a point, but I mean, you do want to be going in with the right headspace here as well. We talk about League of Legends being an incredibly sort of emotion-driven game, and coming off 2 victories here tonight is going to put you in the right mindset set to really head into those semifinals, which are coming up incredibly soon.
I was going to say, like, you talk about headspace, semifinals in 2 days' time.
Exactly.
I mean, that's not a lot of time, not a lot of downtime, especially if you're coming off a couple of losses or even just a heartbreaking loss. It's not a lot of time for some of these young players to shake off the emotions of those losses. You want to win whenever possible, right? No one's suggesting they're looking for a loss. It's just hiding a strategy is important, but they kind of pick themselves into a corner with the first pick Vi, when on 5.5 you can think of at least 4 or 5 champions that should be higher priority in the jungle than Vi.
Yeah, well, it's true. And why not pick up the Zac? I mean, Naya showed that was fantastic. There are a whole lot of tanky junglers that are now very, very strong, but there might be a plan that Carbon has. He might just want to play the Vi and show us that actually he's quite good at this champion, and that last performance was not the same thing. But look, we'll see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a pause at the immediate beginning of this game. That's why we're rambling for just a little bit longer than you would have otherwise expected. But we will be getting into the game as soon as possible. But in the meantime, as far as these bottom lanes sort of match up against one another, Papa Smithy, you've got Siva and a Janna here against the Annie Graves, the I'm going to delete you instantly lane. Do they want a lane swap?
Not necessarily. I think Siva lane's fine against Graves. Just if you use that spell shield effectively, you can negate either the buckshot damage or the stun coming through from Annie. You have to be judicious because, of course, the moment you use it, Annie can get up a stun faster than your spell shield comes out. I think it's 26 seconds at level 1, so quite a long cooldown. I mean, just across the board, the one thing you can say about Legacy, when they show these comps multiple times, if they can get success on this comp, it will possibly draw bans coming into the semifinals. So
that's true.
One of the reasons is maybe they don't want to run the Zed necessarily on Choo-Choo's, but you play it a couple of times before. It's fresh in the minds of your enemies. If you can get a carry performance, it opens up maybe the other strategies you've been practicing. So if they can get a win on this comp that they've shown a couple of times now, they can be confident that enemy teams will respect it, and they might be able to open up other strategies that they want with higher priority champions.
Yeah, that's right. And we were talking about the fact that Choo-Choo's, his last performance on Zed wasn't exactly his best. He played fine, but of course just couldn't really do anything come the end of the game. But his previous Zed performance was outstanding. That guy was just doing the most ridiculous amounts of damage, popping carries from halfway across the map and then just going back to his ult shadow and being completely fine. So, of course, Choo-Choo's a formidable Zed player, and we'll see whether he can have that performance this time.
I mean, it's interesting to see where Zed shakes out in terms of the meta, with lots of tanky champions, tanky top laners, tanky junglers, less assassination options. You know, previously, a lot of these lower health junglers could be picked off just like a support to get that instant 5v4 with the death mark, but Nautilus certainly going to laugh at the damage coming through from Zed, at least a few items into the game. Interesting to see where Zed falls in terms of the meta. If he can get that split push going, specifically, as we mentioned, if Aurelia is held down, could be a lot of work done in the split push. His split push was successful against Direwolves. He just wasn't available at that last team fight that finally saw the seesaw tip towards the Direwolves in that game. Again, Chuchu's a great Zed player, great assassin player in general. Can he do the work in this game? The comp doesn't necessarily invite it, but great players, they make the best out of average situations.
Yeah, that's true. And if they get the early snowball that they need, which can be provided by a really opportunely placed Vault Breaker in the early stages of the game, you have to think that Chuchu's, he's going to be the man that's going to be able to carry it forward. And Minkiewell, I mean, he's on a lane-dominating champion here as well. The Lulu can be so frustrating to deal with. Of course, Aurelia is going to shrug off that damage later, but in the early stages of the game, is that top lane going to need attention here?
I mean, you have to think all these lanes Atlas as we load into game will need attention. Lulu should beat Aurelia in the early levels. Zed puts out more pressure than Karthus, who just wants to range farm. And this is Graves in the bottom lane, who can also push in lanes aggressively. So again, maybe it will be Carbon on a damage Vi to really snowball this game in the early game.
Yeah, well, we know that he loves to build Trinity Forces, but ladies and gentlemen, we are, of course, into the game. Legacy taking on Immunity. Legacy picking up the blue side for the second matchup against Immunity this season. The final game that Immunity has to play, their 14th. We'll see whether they can make it a victory, whether they can change their hopes, change their, I guess, exactly what they've been doing the entire split long, which is splitting games 1-1. We'll see whether it's going to continue or whether it's going to falter here.
So we see a very aggressive invade for Vision from Immunity. Not sure if they're looking for the lane swap, but with the positioning right now, you have to think with the wards down, the safest place for Legacy to start their jungle would be the Immunity red buff, given they have double wards around it. Risky for them to walk to their own red buff, so vertical jungling was at least opened up as a possibility, but with the laners moving at the moment, Siva actually backs, nope. Does look like Immunity going to be looking for the lane swap.
Yeah, they saw Tallywacker there on the bottom side of the map. He walked over that ward, and now Immunity, they're going to do the same thing. And are Legacy going to immediately switch back here as well? They will miss out on some creeps, and it looks to me like Immunity have managed to secure the lane swap.
So Immunity get the lane swap. You might wonder why, just because Lulu, as a ranged auto attacker, does lane fine in a 1v2, but so does Aurelia. So we mentioned the fact that Legacy had picked themselves into winning lane matchups. When you've got 2v1s, any of those advantages are negated. That maybe there's less pressure in the early game on this Immunity side now that they have a 1v2 situation for Aurelia compared to Minkiewell on that Lulu. So that might open up a roam also, though, for Legacy. The other thing to consider, suddenly the supports don't need to be sitting in lane, and level 1, already with the stun popped up, a lot of global pressure comes down from an Annie.
Yeah, and Annie actually caused the reset of that blue buff as well. T-Gun looking again for some level 1 pressure here, this time on Choo-Choo's. And she's just going to continue farming, saying, yeah, no, that's my support. Yeah, he's just hanging out in the mid lane. It's fine.
You might wonder, why is he doing this? He's on Janna, but he's just looking for damage against a couple of auto attacks, just a bit of CC, just looking to throw off the enemy's solo laner and open up some aggression, get some lane control to cheese. Hitting level 2 first can be important, as Ejim doesn't want this blue buff to go down. No,
Ryu actually taking so much damage here as well. Carbon and Minkiewell have found their way around here, and there's the Ignite onto Ryu. The blue buff did go down, but I believe that Carbon may have been able to take that one away. Zahi's smite is still up.
Yeah, Carbon smited it away, like you said. That's a big early advantage for Legacy, sorry. Might only be a 1 buff start here for Immunity.
And that's on this this Nautilus here as well that we haven't necessarily seen that much of, so it might be a sort of a nerfed beginning to his OPL experience, but we'll see whether Zahi can come back from this one. Of course, there is still... No, there isn't. That red buff, it is being taken right now from Carbon, so the 3 buff start for the Vi. And if there's any champion you want to get rolling early, it is Vi.
But if there's any jungle you want to hold down, it's a blue buff gated jungler like Nautilus. You can see already was fairly low in terms of his mana pool. We'll use the rest of it trying to take down this red buff. His sustained jungler is going to be that much slower and that much more difficult. We'll have to back for a Ranger's Trailblazer much earlier. It's actually quite a significant disadvantage. Nautilus was always thought of as like a fiddlesticks-like jungler. Needs that blue buff to really power farm. So Legacy picking up all off the back of the amazing aggression from Ejim. In response to the lane swap, they've won this level 1 situation.
Yeah, and speaking of pressure from Ejim, getting so much damage down onto Ryu here, trying to farm with that Blade Surge. As you can see, at half health, having to pop so many of the potions and the charges here as Ryu again going to get stunned as Tallywacker. No fear at all underneath this turret almost.
And Tallywhacker's position has been excellent. He's basically standing next to the ranged minions, knowing if you Blade Surge onto these, you're going to eat a melee range buckshot, take a lazy 150 damage at level 1 or very early into this game. And Ryu, safe as a Aurelia, but needs to actually give away more of these CS because he's really being punished for them.
Yeah, and as that lane reset as well, Tallywhacker actually managed to freeze that one out as well. So Ryu forced to approach that wave a little bit closer, as you can see there on the bottom side. Carbon taking a very early dragon just on his own, the way a Vi likes to do.
A level 3 solo dragon, of course, with the percentage health coming from the denting blows, very possible. Now he's just rotating around, trying to pick up the enemy raptor, sorry, actually the friendly raptor camp. Isn't really going to be able to...
It's not a friendly camp. No. Those raptors are very
They do a lot of damage, absolutely. The Nautilus is going to poke his head bottom. He needs a snowball. He needs a successful gank to get back into this game.
Yeah, nice Howling Gale there from Teague on the exhaust onto Tallywacker here as well, who blows the heal. Ejim completely out of mana. Ryu's going to get the first blood here as well, but Tallywacker trying to turn it around. The last auto attack's not enough as Tallywacker, he's now going to fall down. Carbon finds his way in, but Ryu's still alive somehow. The dredge line, it's going to be there for Carbon, and now you can see the Nautilus effect, ladies and gentlemen, because there is a lot of CC on that guy, and Ryu, he survives, and that Aurelia are going to be very happy from now on.
I mean, a lot of CC on Nautilus is the understatement of the century. There's so much CC. It's why you worry about Nautilus becoming popular as a jungle pick, because if you ever overextend so many different CCs and then a ranged CC knock-up at level 6, I mean, it's not fun to face a Nautilus at the best of times, and you could see why, and it was doing respectable damage. It is very difficult to communicate how important that gank was. I remember, he was 3 buff. There was the potential that he would be significantly behind in levels. He couldn't really look to farm the jungle because his mana sustain wasn't high enough to really do it. So to pick up all those kill involvements, 1-0-1 now, negates a lot of what Legacy were able to open up with that first blue buff steal.
And it also means that Tallywacker had to be out of lane here as well. Gave Uberbro a chance to farm up a little bit more than the Graves. Now has a 10 CS advantage there on the top side and is going to be able to get the preferable buy here as well. The BF Sword probably going to be coming through first here for the Sivir. And that could be very important for the dragon fight that could ensue in the next 5 or so minutes.
You went very aggressive down bot.
Oh yeah, Ejim's going to take down Ryu, and
he walked into lane and Blade surged onto Tallywacker, and Ejim showed up with a stun after clearing a ward, and he was dead.
Yep, and that is generally what's going to happen when there's 2 people versus 1 person. So Ryu does have the teleport, so he will be able to get back in time for this wave. As you can see, is he going to use it? Yes, he is. Actually heading towards the top side here as Minkwell might be in a bit of trouble. Uberbro was getting ganked here by Carbon, but there's on the hunt popped Uberbro with just enough mana to use it. The hidden style has been popped. Ryu just wants to get the Blade Surge. There it is. Equilibrium Strike there as well. Nice wild growth from Minkwell as the turret falls down on the bottom side of the map, but there's the Requiem. The flash from Uberbro picks up the kill, and Choo Choo's, he's coming around looking for a kill onto the Sivir. The Lulu is in trouble as well. Just Minkwell walking back to his turret, but not enough. And Choo Choo's goes on a bit of a wild goose chase and ends up in the top lane.
Choo Choo's was really greedy. He went for the kill on Uberbro, despite the fact it was level 4 Aurelia, and that greed netted him nothing. During this whole trade, though, Legacy able to push up very aggressively, take the turret down bottom. They have a lot of wave control, and Tallywacker, he's definitely got going this game. No kill involvements, but 64 CS and a turret.
Yeah, 64 CS and a turret is definitely huge, and Legacy, they really want to be moving forward in this game as quickly as possible. You see, they've completely closed the gold gap that was present there for Immunity by taking down that turret. And now able to move around this map as well, and we'll see whether Tallywacker can get involved. As we were talking about, Uberbro has picked up that BF Sword, does have some boots there as well, as Cheese was able to complete the tier.
But in 8 minutes, there's already been 2 significant turnarounds that you wouldn't have expected to come through from Team Immunity. The first one to consider, Zahi, so far behind the jungle, 1 buff start, picking up 2 kill involvements, becoming relevant. The other thing, of all the item buys, Irelia had to buy a second Doran blade because she just had no gold. It was looking like the world's latest Trinity Force was on the cards. Suddenly 2, 1, and 2. Going to have enough gold to go back and pick up one of those parts of the Trinity Force soon. We talked about how this game is on a bit of a timer just because in the late game, Irelia and Karthus will be massively strong. The Karthus, he's farming up happily. He got 77 CS. Irelia's par time for Trinity Force coming down, you have to think, what, 5, 6 minutes after those kill involvements? Hasn't been able to pick up any farm. In fact, will continue to get no farm as Ejim comes in aggressively. Trinity Force is going to be late, but it just gets that much sooner when you pick up those extra kills.
Yeah, well, it's true. And 2-0 and 2 now. And with this Eye of the Storm going to be a little bit more useful. Zubabro just going to push out this wave as the Sivir loves to do. This tower in a lot of trouble. No members of Legacy are around, and that could actually go down here as Carbon is going to head back here on the top side. Zahi just smacking that tower with his anchor and his fist a few times here as well. Actually, I feel like that tower should have gone down much longer ago as Choo-Choo's. He's going to get tagged by the ultimate here from Zahi. Flashes forward, looking for the CC. There's going to be the stun as the Deathmark comes through as well. He gets a boomerang for it, but my goodness, Zahi just dies.
That was amazing play by Zahi. In the mid lane, actually, Cheese does turret dive Minky well, but the Deathmark to dodge the dredge line was wonderful play from Choo-Choo.
Yeah, just ridiculous. And there, Choo-Choo's actually going for another kill here as well. He's going down very, very low. Uberbro trying to kite it out. There it is. Manages to pick up the 1v1 kill. Carbon now looking for an ultimate, but I don't think he's quite fast enough to catch the Sivir.
The fleet of foot passive came up so massive. That extra burst of movement speed, have to check and see what it is at this early stage. I believe it's exactly just, I believe, 20 extra movement speed to sidestep the Shuriken, which probably would have led to the passive proc and the percentage health damage coming through from Zed. Very nice, stylish play from Uberbro, knowing the limits of this champion. It is his Sivir, remember, his most played champion this season, and he's looked very impressive when he's played it.
Yeah, of course, 4 and 2 thus far in the OPL. He has definitely been a force to be
this will
reckoned
be his,
with.
what, that's his 7th game out of 14. That's half his games this season on Sivir.
Just ridiculous. And he's had a brilliant performance so far on it as well. You're absolutely correct. Carbon, though, is going to be able to potentially secure the second dragon here for Legacy, but it is going to be in full vision of Team Immunity as Carbon charges the Vault Breaker. Ejim is going to have to use that flash. Gets out of the way of a lay waste there as well. A little bit handy.
I mean, it's a significant summoner to burn, of course. Level 5, soon to be level 6. True. Won't have flash tippers for at least 4 to 5 minutes at this point. Immunity, they're rotating aggressively. They have the late game scale, and they're ahead in gold. It's only 400, but with this Sivir, they can power down turrets.
Yeah, there's the Wall of Pain there as well as Uberbro trying to get some auto attacks off. Does have a lot of flat damage here as Carbon. You can see that is a lot of flat damage because Carbon now has to go back. Choo-Choo's going to throw out some shurikens. And Legacy, they do successfully defend their mid lane outer turret for now.
It's just always interesting to see what builds upon what. And what I'm referring to is with the flash down, Uberbro can save his spell shield for only the Assault and Battery because there's no other abilities that are likely to CC him that are realistic. And he's not going to be able to walk up and Tibbers a Sivir without flash. But because that flash had to be used defensively, you can position so aggressively under this turret as 500 range Sivir, even use the Ricochet to try and DPS it down because you don't have to respect any of the CC or use that spell shield till you see the Assault and Battery used.
Yeah, T-Gun, he's most definitely caught, collaterally damaged by Tallywacker there as well, just to make sure. And Legacy turn it around, and they're going to have the pressure now in the mid lane.
They have a lot of turret damage as well. Cheese can try and prune this way, but he has to respect the damage, and he has to respect this.
Yeah, there's the Deathmark coming through as well as Choo-Choo's. He's going to get ulted by Zahi here as well, but it is going to be the kill onto Cheese. Now going to be ulting everyone here as well. You can see the Requiem doing so much work as Carbon's going to fall down. The Tibbers is going to die as well, but it is a 1-for-1 in the end.
A 1-for-1, but crucially, I believe they were able to keep up the turret. It's the turret on about a 10th health. It's alive, it denies global gold, and it's a 1-for-1 trade, so you'll take that if you're Immunity.
Yeah, well, it's true, and Ryu, he's here as well, does have a Phage here on top of the rest of his items. You can see they're really wanting to take down this turret, but Minky well with a little bit too much wave clear.
You're not confident enough to have Zahi turret tank it just yet, even with all the threats back in the base. Surprisingly close game, but with the late game scaling, all they've given up for this early game, which could have been so one-sided. Remember, we predicted Lulu should be Irelia in lane, Zed should have more presence in the mid lane than Karthus. And Graves versus Sivir, it's very even, but there's the potential for 3-1 lanes. It could have been much more larger advantage. We were looking for the Legacy Snowball. They certainly haven't got it this game.
Yeah, Cheese actually Wall of Pain down in the mid lane, just making sure that he can clear out all of these minions. And these outer turrets for both teams are so incredibly low.
I mean, the fact that Ryu's relevant at all this game after being 20 CS to 40 CS down actually has enough gold for the second part of the Trinity Force. It's going to be a late Trinity Force, but it could have been a very late Trinity Force from this Aurelia.
Yeah, it could have been almost a non-existent Trinity Force if he was forced to build sort of those the tanky items here first, which can happen here, of course, if you fall too far behind as one of these frontline bruisers, but going to be able to finish it off and not in too bad time.
Yep, so we're going to see the blue buff come up here. Cheese keeps farming up. Doesn't have level 11. Of course, the base damage scaling on that Requiem is so relevant when it's hitting 5 members guaranteed every time. Yeah. So much extra AoE damage coming through. We're just waiting to see the game come through, as I believe we have a pause.
Yes, we have a slight pause, ladies and gentlemen, but let's use this to take stock of what's been happening in this game, because both teams very aggressive in their playstyle with trying to force down these turret takes, but at this stage of the game, you have to think that Immunity going to be quite happy with how things are going.
Absolutely. The aggression, as we mentioned, was expected or projected to be out of Legacy. Their late game comp doesn't really match up to the Karthus, to the options that Immunity had opted into. So it's just been surprising to see how even it's been. And Immunity have been winning those skirmishes significantly. They haven't been able to pick up the dragon. You know, credit to Carbon for getting that first dragon so early. It was difficult for them to contest the second one. That's the one thing Legacy has going for them, is the 2-0 in terms of dragons, but in terms of turrets, you know, they're 2-1, but the advantages haven't been stacking, despite the fact that on paper, as we mentioned, it could have been 3-1 lanes. It was looking good when they got the lane swap. You think, okay, they're going to get a bit more momentum in Immunity, but the blue steel could have been the seesaw for this game. That could have been Nautilus as a non-factor. Aurelia was already struggling, but managing to pick up those 2 kills in bottom lane after the overextension from Tallywhacker and co., that's what got Nautilus back into the game, and that's what got Immunity from what could have been a difficult situation into a very comfortable one. Yeah,
and then Ryu using that that teleport fantastically well to the top side of the map and securing those extra couple of kills, becoming, you know, 2-1 and 2 at that early stage of the game with a couple of Doran's Blades as well, really allowed him to get to that point where he can build the items that he needs to. He can hit that power spike that is required of this Aurelia.
And that's the thing. Legacy put themselves in a position with their first 5 minutes to have Aurelia and Nautilus as complete non-factors in this game.
Yeah.
But they managed to claw themselves back away with an opportunistic gank and a teleport gank, actually, from the Aurelia, from what could have been 5-6 minutes added to the power spikes to 5-6 minutes taken away, and a much earlier power spike in a team comp that already scales well against what Legacy's doing.
Yeah, and as far as talking about Legacy here as well, I mean, you have to look at Carbon. 0-2-1 has managed to secure those dragons, but he had a 3-buff start and really couldn't impact the map like we were talking about him needing to.
A 3-buff start on a champion they first picked from. They put so much priority into this Vi over so many other junglers, let alone power picks on patch 5.5. And the Vi hasn't done much for them.
No, it hasn't really been the pick that they've been, you know, that they were looking for here, but we'll see whether they have a different plan, whether it's going to be sort of a mid-game focus situation where they're going to use that wild growth, tie it in with the Vi here as well, and we'll see whether that's what's going to be making it work out here for Legacy, because at the moment, it's looking like they're on the ropes.
And what will Choo-Choo's be able to do against double exhaust? Of course, Karthus can naturally take exhaust and be very happy. Doesn't need Ignite. Of course, he has the finishing damage of the Requiem to do that kind of same sort of function. Janna has exhaust and, of course, has so much disengaged CC anyway. It looks difficult. I mean, Karthus versus Zed already a good matchup just in terms of that extra damage and being assassinated and still being relevant to fights. But with the double exhaust taken into consideration, unless it's the split push, team fighting is going to be super hard to navigate for Choo-Choo's.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really hard. And if you look over the other side here as well, Legacy, they don't have an exhaust, and there's a Karthus. And a Karthus is a target that you definitely want to get exhaust on. If he's on the hunt running at you with that Defile on, that's a whole lot of guaranteed damage.
And we mentioned short-range damage, Graves and Zed especially, melee range and just, you know, 525 range AD carries. You don't have the Sivir. You know, if they had the Sivir Legacy, they could navigate away from the Death Defy, get that pick with the Ignite, then just move off it. But as short-range champions who want to be getting there in melee range, they're going to be eating massive Defile damage. So when Karthus hits, you know, 4 or 5 items, hits towards that 600 AP, Other AP champions, like burst champions like Fizz, okay, you just navigate away from the burst, but you're always going to take Karthus damage when you have the comp that Legacy have taken, just because he does AoE damage with Defile. When he's alive, dead, the Requiem will come through. They cannot shake off this damage, so they need an Aegis like right now. They need a Snowball Aegis, and who's going to buy that? It's going to be the Vi, but Vi's behind. There's not going to be any Snowball Aegis, and Karthus, he does well in this comp. You worry for Legacy.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be dangerous for Legacy heading towards that later stage of the game. But we've seen things from Legacy that have been completely ridiculous, especially historically here as well.
I mean, they almost won that Direwolves game when they're very similar comp against a Karthus. They were almost able to outplay. Choo-Choo's put out so much global pressure, even late game split push on the Zed. There's always the potential. These are very practiced champions, one of the best teams in Oceania. But it's difficult.
It is going to be definitely difficult, but this could be the test that Legacy were looking for, you know, looking to try and test their mettle here before the semifinals that are going to come through, and that is going to be the main test here, the first OPL split that we've had thus far in Oceania. We're looking to see who's going to be crowned the first champion, and everyone wants that title.
And this is already a preview of a matchup that might happen in the playoffs. Well, both these teams already confirmed for playoffs. It's top 4 match happening here. Immunity maybe have more stakes because they want to push their way towards the 3rd spot, but on the same side of the coin, Legacy, they don't want to finish 0-2 and then have to meet the Chiefs in the semifinals.
Yeah, and Immunity, I mean, Legacy, sorry, they're defending their 3rd place spot here as well against Immunity. They won't want to push them back down to that 4th position so that they're the ones that have to face off against the Chiefs.
I mean, you look at the standings, you might think, okay, their last game's against Fortnite. That should be an easy win, but we've already seen that proved completely incorrect after the Chiefs were dismantled by Fortnite. So,
yeah, and Direwolves had a really tough time taking them down as well.
Absolutely. So, you know, walking into the last game, having to win against Fortnite, that's a scary thing, because Fortnite on their day, there's 120, 130 champions they might pick between.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think every single champion in the game is an availability, mostly for Naya, who just seems to be picking up everything at the moment. But we are back into the game, ladies and gentlemen. Pause is over. And again, the siege in the mid lane continues.
You say the siege, the big issue for Immunity is they don't have much turret damage. Karthus auto attacks, you don't see them very often for a reason. They're bad, and you know he's much more happy to just be using Defile. So their turret damage is just Sivir. She has excellent turret damage. She has good poke, but she's 500 range. So even though she can do decent turret damage, you need Nautilus, you know, as a super tank, a 2-item Nautilus, standing at the front of the fight, dissuading people from damaging the Sivir. So unless Nautilus and Sivir are grouped, no turret's going to be coming down from Immunity.
Yeah, and Zahi probably wanted to build up resistances as soon as possible here as well. He's all about that effective health, wants to make sure that shield is as difficult to break as possible.
I mean, sheer health, of course. Good with the Cinderhulk as well.
Good, yep. Most definitely, but Cinderhulk is going to just be giving you so much of that, plus 25% extra health as well, as Minky is going to get an incredibly aggressive ward as Carbon looking to try and come around here as well. There's the Assault and Battery, actually everything to explode the cheese, and they take down the turret here at the same time. Legacy managing to safely navigate out of the cheese Defy. And that was working out quite well.
Absolutely. That was a great time to pick up a pick just because Sivir was up the top lane. Aurelia wasn't grouped with the team. And actually 2 creeps away from level 11. And the ultimate, the Requiem, wasn't available. So all of the reasons to engage were very well founded. Good pick, but of course no objective being able to be picked up at this point. Dragon's still a minute away, and that turret's still at full health.
Yeah, well, that's true. The inner turret wasn't an option, but it did give them that opportunity to get to the outer that they were so looking for before. Uberbro now looking to try and get some damage down into this top lane outer turret.
And even just simply, it forced a reaction from a free farm Sivir and a free farm Aurelia. You want to stop the power spikes coming through from the Aurelia specifically. If that extra 3-4 creeps you could have picked up could have been the difference between Trinity Force and not having it for this next dragon. At this point, still 200 gold away from the Trinity Force. Might have been able to pick up those creeps if she could have gone back earlier.
Well, it's true, and Ryu now trying to farm as quickly as possible. Legacy, though, with positional advantage over this dragon, is going to be their 3rd, of course, for the extra movement speed. Ejim actually positioned here as well. Does get a nice 2-man stun. Wall of Pain is down. Zahi's going to pop up his shield. At
minimum, this extra time required to farm will force a teleport to come through from Ryu.
Yeah, well, it's true, and he does have the Trinity Force now as well. Minky doesn't have his teleport, and he's still in that top lane, but he's going to be up relatively soon. Does sort of have another 40 seconds or so to go. Legacy, though, moving very aggressively towards this dragon.
are able to put down the ward. It'll be very interesting to see the 1v1 battle between Aurelia and Lulu, just because the one-item Lulu against the most expensive item in the game, or up there with the most expensive item in the game, Aurelia. I earlier said in the cast that Corki is the best user of the Trinity Force. Aurelia is definitely top 3, so Lulu's going to have to be so careful, even with all her disengage, with the Whimsy, with the Glitter Lance. Still have to respect the assassination potential from Trinity Force Aurelia.
What's the third? Is it Skarner?
Skarner's pretty good with Trinity Force.
Yeah, damn right he is. Damn right he is. I'm pretty sure Skarner's actually probably one of the best champions in the game. Legacy, though, continuing to position around this dragon. Zahi just being a big aquatic man.
Your favorite kind of big man.
Yep, certainly. Most certainly. Oh, there's the flash tippers, though, as well as Choo Choo's is going aggressive. Uberbro, so much trouble as Cheese is trying to secure the kill on this Annie as well, but he gets Assault and Battery. There's the Requiem, but gets cancelled. He popped it too early, and Legacy, they get out of a lot of damage.
That was a weird interaction where he misjudged. He thought he was dead before he was dead. Started the channel, then died. No Requiem comes through. Very long cooldown. That's a bit like a missed Shockwave in this situation with even more downside because that cooldown, it's so long early game.
Yeah, and when Legacy have no opportunities to dodge out of the damage here as well, that was guaranteed massive damage on everyone, but unable to quite make it work. Zahi's going to take some Constellation Raptors here as well as he punches the last one there, and you can see there's a brilliant pink ward being put down. He's going to be aware of it. Legacy can just watch him take the rip up.
He's wondering where that ward is. I think he will naturally path up and spot it out, but with the Raptor buff, was able to know there's a ward around. He should spot it out. The ping's coming through. Yep. The Nautilus Anchorman. He finds it.
Oh, yeah. Nautilus Burgundy. Able to take that one down. Cheese is going to continue clearing these creeps in the mid lane.
Is that our second skin idea?
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. You're a genius, Papa Smithy. That's amazing. We're sending that through. Oh, my God.
So it's Hurdling Cassidon and Nautilus Burgundy.
Oh, I cannot. I don't think we can really call him that, but just calling him Anchorman would just be the best. Oh, my God. And he throws a microphone and just holds onto the cable.
Maybe Primetime Nautilus?
Primetime Nautilus?
With Primetime Draven, yeah.
There it is. Azahi's going to get caught out here on the top side of the map, though. Choo Choo's has found him. He wants to flash over, but not going to be able to.
Deceptively squishy, so no armor built on the Nautilus. Going towards the Righteous Glory just for a bit more initiation potential. But after a good start, since the pause, Legacy have really turned it on. And Immunity, they've been looking to get advantage, looking to safely farm, but Legacy have been forcing it every turn.
Yeah, Ryu going to use those Transcendent Blades just to try and make sure that he can protect this turret, but that is only going to be for one wave. Cheese, he did take down the mid lane outer turret. Tallywhacker is going to be here as well. They know that there's only 4 members towards that top side, but they're collapsing on a Cheese here. Tibbers comes down as well as Carbon jumps in, and there's another Assault and Battery. Choo Choo's picks up the kill as Uberbro trying to get some damage back here as well. Carbon falls down to the dead Karthus. Legacy are going to have to play a little bit more carefully now as it is 4 versus 4.
So this last few minutes has felt one-sided. Oh my goodness, Minkyuel will eat the ultimate.
A lot of damage to come through as well, especially from that Boomerang, but Minkyuel is going to be safe out of the way of that Dredge line as Choo Choo's now with the Wild Growth here as well. Forced to flash over the wall, actually. The Shuriken's not going to find their targets, and Immunity, you have to think, just are going to get to that point where they're just going to be too tanky.
I mean, but Legacy have been getting pick after pick. You might wonder why. How is this happening? Look at this mini-map. 4 pink wards around the dragon, both at the top, towards the Baron, and towards the dragon. And so many green wards littering the red side jungle and the blue side jungle of Immunity. We mentioned the fact that they were going to get to a point where we won't see this assassination potential from Choo Choo's. But at this point, at 20 minutes, what better time to snowball your advantages? Because the natural builds coming through don't deal with what Zed is doing, apart from the Zhonya's that's been completed by Karthus. And as you mentioned, take your windows and just run with them. And that's what Legacy's doing with just immaculate ward control compared to literally no wards from Immunity.
Yeah, there is 1 ward next to the Raptors, and I'm pretty sure that is it here for Immunity. But Righteous Glory has been completed by Zahi. Was the first option here. I like it. A lot of engage and a lot of movement speed.
It's just crazy that they have no defensive wards down. They're just going to place a pink ward, but no wards on the map when you're trying to safely farm. There's nothing safe if your whole jungle is just impassable terrain against a Vi, against a Zed. Pick champions. Annie as well. 3 champions you don't want to meet in the jungle if you're trying to safely farm. And the safety is just not there from Immunity.
That being said, if we have a look down the rosters here as well, Ryu now has almost a 30 CS advantage there on the top side, now with a Giant's Belt as well, building towards possibly a Randuin's, maybe the Warmogs, maybe something else here as well. Probably not going to be that Sunfire Cape, but definitely has his defensive option of choice here as Legacy now looking to try and find an engage as Tibbers did come through, but unable to find anything as Dragon's up in another 2 minutes.
5v5 team fights, as you're dissecting these items, are going to get worse and worse for Legacy. There's kind of no dissension from me on that point. But the picks, it's never going to be a 5v5 fight if Legacy managed to execute on all the wards. They want to get a pick down, then take the jungle. Get a pick, take a turret. Get a pick, take that Baron. And if Immunity don't get wards down, they're finally starting to negate a lot of the wards. In fact, a lot of the Legacy wards timed out in the red side jungle. They haven't pathed around there. It's going to be hard for them to 5v5 fight around the Dragon, but if they can take advantage of the wards, it doesn't need to be that 5v5 that Immunity have really picked for.
Yeah, and Zahi now with that Righteous Glory, very, very healthy as Mikuel. He might be caught out here as well. He's forced to use that Wild Growth as Cheese flashes over the wall. Choo-Choo's trying to... Oh my goodness, actually going very aggressive here as the Death Mark comes through. Cheese avoids the damage there as he walks into a Glitter Lance, but he is going to be okay. Eye of the Storm available there as well as Zahi. He's going to pop the Righteous Glory. Monsooned out of there is Carbon as the ultimate comes down from the Nautilus. Choo-Choo's now trying to re-engage, but of course doesn't have the ultimate.
And all this time, they're buying time for the split push.
Yeah, Tallywhacker actually split pushing there on the bottom side of the map. Is going to be able to possibly even take down this inhibitor turret. Of course, Nautilus fell down in that fight. That Shuriken catching him in the back of the head as Uberbro trying to come around and get some damage down onto Tallywhacker, but he takes down the inhibitor turret, and that's all that Legacy were looking for, and they've broken the base.
Yeah, Uberbro couldn't even walk aggressively because they didn't have vision of the Annie coming through to provide support, so they had to seed their inhibitor turret. Crazy amount of pressure put on by Legacy has got them this massive advantage. And again, who needs a 5v5 fight when you can split push even with your Graves?
Yeah, they're just using everything that they can in order to split push this map, and it's working beautifully as you've illustrated.
It's an amazing use of skirmishes. Legacy are strong in 2v2s. The pick potential of the likes of Annie, Vi, Zed is very, very high. 5v5, don't opt into any of them, and getting an early advantage, and then just stacking. That's the 4th Dragon.
Yeah, and that's another Tibbers down here as well as Uberbro just gets destroyed by Tallywhacker. Zahi in so much trouble. Dredgeline ain't gonna save you, buddy, as the godlike Choo-Choos hits 8 kills for this game.
I mean, Immunity were coming in one by one. Actually looking the flank was Aurelia. Had to turn back when 2 of her members, including the tanky frontline Zahi, died instantly. And at minimum, that should be an inhibitor for Legacy.
Yeah, Wall of Pain has gone down here as well. Cheese with the Requiem available, does have the exhaust as well, but it's not going to be enough. Inhibitor falls down. Ryu looking for an engage here, but not going to find it, and not even going to get the bear gold from Tibbers.
So impressed from Legacy. We talked about the team comp, so we were correct when we're talking about 5v5 fights, but they're never opting into any of these 5v5 fights using their skirmish advantage, and their warding has been so on point. So much of this advantage was gained by all the aggressive wards they had down. From the pause, subsequently, a 400 gold lead for Immunity at that point is now a 4,000 gold lead for Legacy, and 4 Dragons. Even if they have a really poor skirmish, a very, very poor siege comp with 5 Dragons, that kind of disadvantage is gone.
Well, it gives you so much more opportunity to pick up the Baron as well, which is the best friend that you've ever got in a siege situation, and Immunity going to have to be very, very careful. And as you mentioned, they just need to put more wards on the map.
I mean, there's just no armor at all coming through from Immunity. They haven't been able to itemize armor. There's finally the Warden's Mail at 26 minutes. The Trinity Force was hit at a good clip. We were really excited for you when he was able to pick up those kill involvements and ensure the Trinity Force was early. But the difference between a 22-minute Warden's Mail and now a 26-minute means they haven't been able to opt into fights. And that Nautilus, the front line, has not been tanky at all.
Yeah, hasn't been able to do anything. In fact, hasn't bought any items for a very long time, actually, of course, since completing that Righteous Glory. We'll see what he's actually going for as that next big pickup, as Legacy now looking around this jungle. They're trying to get some picks. You can see, again, with so much vision, shutout vision available. Uberbro actually pops the ultimate here as well. Transcendent Blades has popped. Ejim looking to go down here, but it's not going to happen as Tallywhacker is going to take down the inner turret, and Immunity unable to engage in a way that they want.
Yeah, Legacy are grouped as 5, but importantly, they're not grouping their threats. They're just trying to cause dissension, move their threats around, and take a structure. And now, there's just been no option for Immunity to get any aggressive wards down. They're straight onto Baron.
Yeah, that's with the bottom lane inhibitor down here as well. So easy for Legacy just to wait until those super creeps are in the base and take a free Baron. And it's happened here as well. 6,000 gold, 7,000 gold is the lead. Legacy just running all over this game.
Absolutely, and it's all been on the back of the warding. We've mentioned it multiple times, but they just never had wards in their important spots. When they were in that farming phase, get the defensive wards down to stop the picks coming through from Annie, from Vi, from the Zed. In this phase, get the wards down just to stop the grouping and the rotations that have come. The rotational play from Legacy with 4 dragons has been super on point, and this should be a rotation into the inhibitor turret.
Yeah, and they've got the Baron buff here as well. These creeps are lasting a long time as Immunity trying their very best to defend. Legacy take a lot of damage here, but that is going to be another inhibitor turret falling down.
So we talk about rotations a lot, and what have they really done this game? The thing to mention to our viewers is how many times has a structure gone down and then Legacy just been able to disengage because there's no incentive to fight 5v5 against this Immunity teamfight comp. They just took an inhibitor turret, ran away. Carbon, though, trying to get away, might actually fall.
Yeah, there's the ultimate to come through from Zahi. You can't dodge that one, Carbon, as the exhaust comes down. Dredgeline to come in here as well. Wild Growth's available, though. Look at all of the shields. T-Gun gets a Monsoon, but that's going to be suicide as Legendary Choo Choo's going to destroy him. Tallywhacker picks up a kill as well. The double now for the Choo Choos as well. And Ryu, he does pick up one, but that's a 3-for-1 trade. And Ryu, he's dead as well. That is an unstoppable Tallywhacker. And is this going to be the ace as Choo Choo's going to try and take down Zahi as well? The double kill and the surrender available for Immunity. And my goodness, that was another split, and Immunity, they've done it.
Necessary surrender, though. That was just so many advantages gained by Legacy off the back of warding. So many times, as I was alluding to, they got an objective and they got out because they knew they couldn't stand up in a 3v3, a 4v4, a 5v5. All their strength was in those 2v2 skirmishes. Yeah. When Vi and Zed get on top of someone, especially with the low armor values, they were picking up a lot of kills. And that was just a masterclass at understanding they had no way to win a 5v5 fight. So never force one. Just force down objectives and then disengage. There was 2-3 times they took a turret and were able to just back away, disengage from the fight, and they were fine. And that's the sign of a team that are really confident in playing an objective-focused game. They never looked for the fight. They never got bloodthirsty because that's not what they picked for. Well executed from Legacy. And again, suddenly, you're researching Legacy for this final, which I believe will be Legacy versus Direwolves now, and you're like, man, maybe we do need to ban that Choo Choo Zed.
Yeah, well, the Choo Choo Zed was definitely strong. But ladies and gentlemen, remember, there was a dragon that you had to be looking for in that third match. So if you did manage to get the photo, make sure that you're taking your next one with the next one and using the hashtag IamOPL when you send those pictures through to our LOL Oceania Twitter account as well. But ladies and gentlemen, we do have our final matchup of the OPL split coming to you before the playoffs. It is going to be between Legacy and Fortnite, and you do not want to miss it.